Thomas on television. Written and told by Kiefer Adams. There was great commotion at Tidmouth Sheds one night as Gordon backed into the shed with exciting news. "I've just heard from the Fat Controller that a television crew is coming to the island tomorrow," he said grandly. "Oh, what are they doing?" asked James. "From what I heard," said Gordon, "they're looking to pitch a new TV show. They're coming to our railway to get some inspiration." "Oh, that will be nice," said Toby. "It's about time we had some important visitors on the island." "Do you think they want to film in the countryside?" asked Percy. "Or maybe they'd like to do a travelling documentary," suggested Henry. "Or maybe do a splendid show about me?" asked James. Tuts and groans responded to this. "Settle down, all of you," chuckled Edward. "We won't know what it is until they announce it." All the engines could talk of nothing but the TV crew. But Thomas was rather quiet. As he listened from one engine to the other, he began to wonder what the television crew's real plans were, and how they would arrive on the island. "Do you know, girls," Thomas said to Annie and Clarabelle the next morning, "it would be so nice if we could take the television crew around the island ourselves." "Don't get your hopes up," snorted James as he rolled in with a van of goods. "I just heard from Edward. The Fat Controller's met the engine that's taken them across the island, said to be a privately owned engine." Thomas was disappointed. "But I still think they should do a show about me," said James. "Splendid red engines are a rare find, you know." James puffed away, feeling rather conceited. Thomas was upset. "Don't worry, Thomas," said Annie. "We know you're important," said Clarabelle. "You don't need to be on television to prove yourself." But the television crew was still plaguing Thomas's mind as he puffed off to his branch line. Meanwhile, Percy had brought some stone trucks from the quarry. He was just pulling up to the junction when a 6-wheeled tank engine pulled up next to him. "Excuse me," said the engine. "Is this the North Western Railway?" "Oh, it is," said Percy. "Are you here for the television crew?" "More like pulling the television crew's train," replied the engine grandly. Percy was impressed. "What's your name?" he asked. The engine was just about to reply when a smartly dressed man in a bowler hat peered out from one of the coach windows. "Come along now, there's lots to do." I'm sorry, I've got to go," said the engine. "Nice meeting you." And he puffed away. Percy was stunned. What a nice chap, he thought. He'd be just right for a television documentary. And he puffed on, feeling rather pleased that he may have figured out why the television crew had come to the island. Later that afternoon at Elsbridge, Thomas had now gotten cross. So much so that his crew had to check him over. "The television crew can have whatever they want," snorted Thomas, "as long as I don't have anything to do with them." "Stop complaining, Thomas," said his driver. "It's teamwork that makes a railway, not TV shows." Just then the station master arrived. "Could Thomas go up the line, please?" he asked. "The television train has broken down. Thomas has been requested to take the train up to the big station." "I won't go," said Thomas. "That TV train can jolly well stay there." "Thomas," said Annie. "We're quite ashamed." "Yes, quite ashamed," said Clarabelle. "Come on, we can help this engine." Thomas didn't want to at first. "Besides," said his driver, "imagine what the Fat Controller would say if you didn't help." Thomas sighed. "You're right," he said. "Come on, we mustn't let the engine or the television crew down." Soon Thomas, Annie and Clarabelle were setting off up the line and to the rescue. When Thomas arrived, the engine was in a bad state. His safety valve had burst and he couldn't go much further. The man in the bowler hat and the smartly dressed suit peered out from the coach window. "Ah, you must be our rescuer," he said. Please get us to the big station. We have a meeting with Sir Topham." Thomas was soon coupled up to the engine and his coach. "All ready?" the engine whistled. "Ready," said Thomas. With much puffing and wheel grit, Thomas pushed the engine and his coach down the line. You can do it! You can do it!" chimed Annie and Clarabelle. I can do it," panted Thomas. Even the engine was telling Thomas not to give up, as he puffed slowly but surely up the line. With one final effort, Thomas brought the engine and his coach to the big station. The fat controller was waiting. The man in the smart suit and bowler hat stepped out of the coach with a woman in a grey and black coat. "Sir Topham," he said, "my name's Mr. Mitten, and this is my associate, Miss Allcroft. We have decided what to do for our television project." "What did you have in mind?" "Our private engine Audrey," said Miss Allcroft, "is quite fascinated with your tank engine here. Would he mind if we did a show about him and all of his adventures?" The fat controller couldn't believe what he had heard. "Well, Thomas," he said at last, "looks like you may be on television after all. How would you feel about that?" "I'd be honoured, sir. Thank you, sir," said Thomas. He turned to the crew. "Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I'd be honoured." "I know you'll do all right, Thomas," said Audrey. Thomas grinned. "Between you and me, we know exactly how well he did on television, don't we?"